Hi all! My apologies for the late video. Between recovery and the Delta variant locking down Sydney, I've somehow still been too waylaid to keep my recovery updated. I can't explain it, but here I am, 100 days after surgery. It's been great, really. But the lockdown, less so. I mean, my forehead scarring is pretty much gone. Very hard to see. Similar to my chin scars that are under my chin here. Um, if people can actually see them properly, they're generally standing too close. Social distancing, am I right? Um, my nose is getting there too. Last time we had a little video up here, it was already the swelling pretty much mostly gone, but since then it's even become more natural, stronger, and flexible. It was a bit stiff before, and you're always worried if you bumped it, if it was just going to be something that wouldn't give and would just snap. It was the feeling, but now it feels completely natural. And considering that my surgeon said it could take upwards of a year for full healing, not bad for 100 days. Can't complain about that in the slightest. Like unexpectedly, one of the other boons that I've noticed is also that since with the forehead reshaping and the lift, one of the secondary features about this is that I had a widow's peak. It wasn't super prominent, but it was there. And of course, between HRT helping to regrow little bits of that, never crazy amounts, but stopping it from going any further, reversing a little bit of it, I'll take that for $100, and for another 100, well, quite a few more than $100 for the forehead lift. They've also taken out a chunk of that skin area that was part of the brow lift, so I've actually got a lot less widow's peak with those two factors combined. So that's really great. Still using my scarring cream that was recommended post surgery. Put it on twice a day, once in the morning, once at night. You can put it under, and it's recommended under any kind of other sunblock or makeup moisturizers, but at the moment we're not really going out that much in Sydney, so that's really not a problem. When it comes to the vaccine though, which is its own weird thing, FFS doesn't really seem to get in the way of getting the vaccine. I had the AstraZeneca vaccine myself. It was the only one available, and they're like, "Do you want it?" I'm like, "Look, I'm not a doctor. You're the doctor. Just give me the shot. Like you know what you're doing." Checking with the fact that I had surgery 3 months ago, I'm way past the point where they have to worry about any additional risk factors because of that surgery at 3 months. It helps that I don't smoke or anything like that. I'm in my early 30s, so that's all probably helped me recover fast enough for that. I mean, I had pretty much all the minor side effects you get from the COVID vaccine: the chills, the fevers, the sore joints, and a little bit of a headache. And that was for the day after the vaccine. But a day after that, it was back to normal. Yeah, it was not that bad. But here's hoping that the second injection that I have in a couple of weeks, again, hopefully that one will be less reactive. But if a more harsher reaction means your body is more aggressively fighting it and learning it, I guess I'm doing quite well. In case anyone is worried about having their jab before or after FFS, really, talk to your doctor, in particular your GP as opposed to your surgeon, about that. But realistically, it shouldn't be a problem. And most surgeries at this point are put off in Sydney, whereas most vaccines are as available as possible. So just go talk to your doctor about that. But yeah, I mean, and now that my face is looking quite good from most angles now. This is again a little bit of scarring under the chin, but this webcam can't even see that, so I'm totally fine. In that regards, I figured it was time to actually get like a new ID for myself, with my new name and all that sort of jazz. So, I mean, for the most part of it, I didn't have to go in except for once to an actual physical location, which is its own thing. But birth certificate you can do online. If you have your old birth certificate, that makes things a lot easier. I actually didn't. I had lost it, which means you have to fill in a lot more information on your form. The fee is the same. Otherwise, you just have to surrender your old one. And then I put that all through. Took about a month to do, which is apparently slower than it would usually be. But look, COVID's making fools of us all, and the government, I'm sure, is, the people who are doing this, it looks like they always have to search through like physical records to find stuff, like what hospital was she born in, what suburb. I'm like, I have no idea. Sydney somewhere. But eventually they get that to you, and that's all great. And once you have your birth certificate, you're laughing. You can do pretty much everything else there. Any question they ask you, you just like birth certificate, and they look at it, and off you go. In particular, birth certificate we did first, which took forever. Medicare was easy. Took a little while on the phone to actually get through to them exactly what had to be done. They're not great at that sort of thing, but in the end, they just gave me an email address, which I'll put in the comments below there in the description field. But you just submitted my birth certificate, my old Medicare card, and they were like, that's all we need. And then another like one and a half working weeks later, new Medicare card arrives. No more questions. It's got that new plastic smell, which is probably not good for me, but still has that nice feeling to it. The Australian Tax Office, I think they really couldn't give a damn. They were just like, oh yeah, if you've got a birth certificate, we'll just update everything. Yeah, it's fine. In fact, they let me update it, and they said, look, you just need to verify it after the fact at some point. If you're lying to us, you're the one who's in trouble. And I'm like, they seem very nonchalant about it for a federal agency, considering how some of the other federal agencies are very strict about that sort of thing. But who knew they were such chill dudes? The only one I actually had to go in for was actually for my driver's license. So you have to go into Services New South Wales. There's this big rigmarole because they don't let you change your gender or your name unless you fill out paper forms, because that's just the way we work in modern society. You can't use the app for it or anything like that. So it's good to see consistency in all of these IT systems, especially during a COVID world, But so I went in there, filled out the form. It was actually quite interesting. While I was there, we had at least 2 separate instances when I had to display my form to be allowed in the building. And then once more when my ticket was called to actually go over and explain things. And it was funny because in both cases, I'd femmed it up a bit more than I would usually. And I was wearing a bit of a mask, but when I was there and I mentioned that I had to come here for a name change and a new driver's license, all this kind of stuff to be reissued, it was interesting because, of course, the both people that I was talking with were also masked up. So, of course, you have nothing else to focus on but their eyes. And both their eyes kept looking down at my hand to look for almost what I would assume to be like a wedding band or something like that. Like, is this someone who's getting married? Is this someone getting divorced? Is this big thing? To their surprise, when they actually looked at my birth certificate and they were like, that's a very masculine name, changing to a very feminine name. And it was kind of like, oh, clearly that was not the initial preconception they were going for. They were going for, clearly this lady's getting divorced or married. I'll take that. That's not bad. That's not a bad thing to have happen, and I'm sure it made their day a little bit more interesting than usual. I'm sure that they're under stress themselves, having to keep the Services New South Wales open non-stop during a more infectious COVID that's going around. And at last count, Australia is only 16% of adults are immunized against COVID. So the global average is 15%, so we are above the global average, but that's a lot of other countries that aren't as rich as Australia, and we're not doing that much better. But, all these people out there who are actually having to work, essential workers, hopefully they stay safe as well. Anyway, that's it from me. I hopefully have another one up in about a month or so. going to see my doctor for my last checkup of this year to just check all the little bits and bobs. But at this point, I can't speak enough of how well this experience was and how lucky in that regard I was to get it done in late April, cleanly between the two lockdowns that we've had in Sydney so far. And I mean, yes, I'm going to get more surgery in the future. Hoping to get voice surgery at some point. So I don't always have to try to hold this tone, as it were. Voice training is a little bit there, but South Korea apparently has a really good place for that, and that's hopefully the next stop of call. But at this point, maybe this time next year, maybe the year after. Stay tuned, I guess. But that's just what it is for the moment. Anyway, this is Tara signing off.